Wow, 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 wow. What a freaking heartbreaker that was for the Colorado State Rams. I never thought the day would come that I was down and out because the Rams lost a game, but that day is here. And what a freaking bummer that was. Colorado State just had a season to remember, and man, it should still be going. That was a travel. Don't anybody get twisted. That was absolutely a travel by Derek Queen on that last play, that game winner from Maryland. He took 3, maybe 4 steps. I don't know in what world it's not a travel. I guess it's the final play, and referees are afraid to blow the whistle because they don't want to decide the game. But a travel's a travel, and that should have been a travel. I'm bummed out for Colorado State. Nico Medved is a hell of a coach. I wish that he would stay at Colorado State, although it feels unlikely. It feels like he's probably going to take that Minnesota job. We got a lot to dive into tonight. We're going to talk about that Colorado State game. We're going to talk about some things going on with the Broncos. What's next for the Denver Broncos? They just did a contract restructure with Jonathan Cooper. They freed up about $3.25 million in cap space. Why did they do that? Who's on the horizon? Well, we're probably not talking about free agents, so we're probably talking about extending our own guys. Courtland Sutton, Zach Allen, maybe a Nick Benito. Broncos got a new coach, Jeff Schmedding from Washington State. We'll discuss that. They lost little Jordan Humphrey to the Giants, and the draft is just right around the corner on April 24th. So we will dig into all of that, including some pre-draft visits that the Broncos have got lined up for their top 30, including a local kid in Gunnar Helm, who was just in the building. He does not count against the top 30 because he's a local kid. But before I get rolling here, I do want to take a second here to thank my sponsors over at Safeway. They are the title sponsor of Mount Polumbus Speaks, and I couldn't do this without them. So grateful to Safeway. I've been partnered with them in charitable efforts and in business efforts now for 5 or 6 years. And if you don't have the Safeway app on your phone, you're missing out. You can make it super easy on yourself. Order every single week. They'll save your order, add 3 or 4 new items. Boom, you're done. 5-10 minutes max. Before you know it, Safeway's got that food on your door. So order on the Safeway app. Safeway's going to do the rest. Get easy delivery or free pickup with the same great deals and prices. You're going to earn points and redeem for exclusive offers. Get started at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app. Safeway, fresh foods and local flavors. Wow. That freaking Colorado State game, man. They were the darlings of March Madness, and they should still be rolling. That was a phenomenal game. Unfortunately for the Rams, they got a little bit cold in the last 4 minutes. They had some uncharacteristic turnovers there with about 4.5 minutes to go. They had a 4-6 point lead, I think with 5 minutes left. And then they just had a couple turnovers. And then just like that, the game is tied. And then just like that, you're crossing your fingers and you're hoping and praying that Colorado State can finish that game out. I don't know how many of you guys got a chance to watch the game. If you missed out, you just missed out on the best game of March Madness. That was by far the best game of March Madness. This year has not had a whole lot of great games. There's not really been a whole lot of upsets outside of Arkansas. A lot of that probably has to do with NIL and the way that the world is changing. There just isn't a market for the mid-majors anymore because NIL is stealing any talented players out of the mid-majors, and they're going over to the SEC, they're going over to the Big Ten, they're going to the Big 12, whatever. They're just gone. So you don't see the upsets that we've been accustomed to in March Madness. Colorado State was that team. Colorado State was that team for all of America to latch onto, and I can't believe it. Me with my CU helmet in the background, I'm sitting here telling you I'm heartbroken over a Colorado State game. I am. I could not have been pulling harder for those boys. The run that they went on to finish off the season, first off, they had to win their conference tournament just to make it into the tourney. So there was no guarantee that they were even going to March Madness. They had to win the Mountain West. And not only did they win the Mountain West, they absolutely destroyed everybody in that tournament. Nico Medved is a hot coach, and he's going to be coveted. So Colorado State is going to have some work on their hands if they want to retain the best coach in their program history. He is got a lot of ties out to Minnesota, and just about everybody's assuming that he's going to jump ship out to Minnesota. I don't know if Colorado State can come up with a huge offer to keep him. I don't know that they've got the budget. I don't know they've got the money. And it's unfortunate because Nico's had that program playing at a very high level now for a long time, and this was the year. This was the year that they were going to do something with it. I saw something somebody tweeted out. I forget who it was, or else I'd give you credit. Somebody tweeted out that Colorado State had not been to the Sweet 16 since man landed on the moon. So that's how long it's been. It's been a long, long time since really any basketball program out of the state of Colorado has had some extreme success. Tad Boyle's flirted with it a couple of years, including last year. Colorado was terrible this year. And I was grateful that Colorado State had a great basketball team this year because there was zero reason to watch University of Colorado basketball. They could have been much worse. And Nico had that team ready to rock and roll. Absolute nails, three-pointer from Jalen Lake, what you thought was going to be a game winner. I mean, freaking 3 seconds left on the clock. Jalen Lake nails that three-pointer. Maryland gets the ball back. They call timeout. All you got to do is survive 3 seconds. Survive 3 seconds, and you're moving on, man. You're moving on, and the dream's alive. Cinderella story's alive. America's got an underdog to root for, but they didn't. They didn't survive those last 3 seconds, unfortunately. Unfortunately, Derek Queen is a big physical basketball player. He gets that ball at the top of the key, picks up his dribble, takes 1, 2, 3 steps, maybe a fourth in there, depending on where you want to start counting. Referees don't call it a travel. He gets physical, hits the two-pointer to win the game, and Rams fans are heartbroken. So, listen, tip of the cap to Colorado State, to their basketball program, to Rams Nation. I don't know what you guys call yourselves out there. Sorry, my bad. But that was a fun year, and appreciate it. Where's your Cherry Creek helmet? You know what? Believe it or not, Brad, I do have a Cherry Creek helmet in a box somewhere. I'll find that box. I'll bring it out for the next one. Appreciate you jumping in. By the way, as you guys can see from Brad there, if anybody wants to make this an interactive experience, all you got to do is send in a tweet or send in a comment on YouTube, wherever you're watching right now. It'll pop up live on stream, and I always do love having interaction with you guys. So feel free to jump in whenever you want, and we'll make this an interactive experience. Okay, not a whole lot left to say there about March Madness, quite frankly. I'll probably fade in my interest here a little bit for the remainder of the tournament until you get to the last couple games, because Colorado State was the team that was keeping me in this thing. All right, what's next for the Broncos? Moving on here, and sorry to do that to the Rams fans out there who are still heartbroken right now. But I haven't had a podcast now for 4 or 5 days, and we do need to talk about what's going on in Broncos country, get caught up. Not a whole lot to cover with you guys today. I'm just going to hang out with you guys for maybe another 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll get out of here and let you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. What's next for the Broncos? So they did just make a move. I don't know if you guys saw it or not. It was a small deal in the big picture, but the Broncos did free up $3.2 million in cap space by converting $4 million of Jonathan Cooper's salary into a signing bonus. That was an option that the team had when they gave Jonathan Cooper that new deal, and they decided to take advantage of that. So they fronted $4 million. That converts into about $3.2 million in cap space. And the Broncos have about $17.415 million in cap space this year. Now, that's not a whole lot of money for this year, but there's a lot of creative things that you can do. They've got 3 things that are on the horizon internally, right? They've got to give a new contract or an extension to Courtland Sutton. They've got to give an extension or a new contract to Zach Allen, however you want to look at it. And Nick Benito has got another year on his contract, and Nick Benito would like a new contract as well. So how are they going to prioritize these things? Why did they free up the space from Jonathan Cooper? Well, I don't think they freed up $3.2 million in cap space because there's some free agent left out there that they want to sign. I would imagine the team is more or less done. They might sign a running back at some point in time as they get closer to the draft, or maybe after the draft. But They did free up that 3.2. They've got 17.415 million available, and I would imagine they did that for the sole purpose of going to work on Courtland Sutton. And I start with Courtland Sutton because I think that's where you start. It's probably the easiest deal to get done. Zach Allen wants $25 million per year. That's a whole lot of money. Courtland Sutton's deal, if I had to guess, probably going to come in the $21 to $22 million per year range, and you could work it as an extension. There's plenty of ways to use that 17.4 to get started on that. Remember, whatever you pay in that signing bonus, that cash has never been an issue for the Broncos. They've got cash. They got the richest owners in the league, so they can front load all the cash and get around $17.415 million in cap space. So I do think that they're going to go to work on Courtland Sutton. I think they'll probably even get that thing done before the draft. That's my guess. I don't know. Courtland wanted an extension last offseason. He did not get it. The Broncos settled on giving him a little bit of a pay raise last year, but he's going to want an extension this year. And if you follow the evidence that's in front of you, Sean Payton's been telling you he likes his receivers. So if he likes his receivers, that's got to mean he likes his number one wide receiver, which is Courtland Sutton. And I know a lot of teams out there, Courtland Sutton might not be a true number one on. But he's our number one. He's our guy. We like him. Sean Payton likes him. And the Broncos are probably going to extend him. So I do think that that Jonathan Cooper restructure probably is a sign that they're going to work on their own guys right now. You've got three guys that all want extensions. I don't think you can get them all done. So if I'm running the show, if I'm George Payton, first off, start with Courtland Sutton because it's the one that you feel like you can get done. And then you got to prioritize it, right? What's the most important player left? That dude is Zach Allen. I know a lot of people might think it's Nick Bonito. Zach Allen is the priority. He is the engine that makes that defense run. Zach Allen was the MVP of that defense outside of Patrick Surtain. And what he's been able to do, play at a 4-eye position, I know that doesn't mean much to a lot of you guys, but in a 3-4 scheme, you've got your nose tackle and you've got two defensive ends. Defensive ends in a 3-4, they're kind of the equivalent of a defensive tackle in a 4 down, but they play on the inside shoulder of the tackles. And historically speaking, in a 3-4 scheme, your 4 eyes, your Zach Allens of the world, they don't get after the pass rusher. They're two-gapping run stuffers. That's what they do. For a long time, their sole purpose was to be big and fat and to go lateral, eat up two gaps, the inside gap and the outside gap, hold the offensive line, easy for me to say, hold the offensive linemen and keep them off of the linebackers. The game's changed. The game's evolved. And the Broncos have been very lucky over the years to have some 4 eyes that could get after the QB, Malik Jackson, Derek Wolfe, Zach Allen. Zach Allen's one of those dogs, if not the best of the bunch that we've ever had at that position. Zach Allen at one point was leading the league in pressures, playing the 4-eye position, a position that historically does not get after the QB. It's usually your outside linebackers in a 3-4 scheme or your edge rushers in a 4-down scheme, your defensive ends. But for the Broncos, Zach Allen was leading the league in pressures and sacks for a long, long time. So, look, I do think the Broncos need to get him locked up. I think he's worthy of $25 million. I don't know that it's going to be that easy to get done. Maybe you come in the $23 million neighborhood, try to give him a bit of a hometown discount, something like that. But what I think that means is that if you get Courtland Sutton done, you get Zach Allen done, well, now Nick Bonito's kind of left, he's left on the outside looking in. And he had a fantastic year last year, worthy of a new contract. But I don't think the Broncos have got the luxury of giving Nick Bonito a new contract right now. Nick just happens to be timed up at a bad time when he's got other players that are going to be priorities of him. So if I'm the Broncos, what I would do, I'd get those two guys done, and then I would tell Nick Bonito, hey, man, we love you. We don't mean this as an insult, but let's get 4 or 5 games into the season. And number one, from the Broncos' point of view, let's see you do it again. Let's make sure you're not a one-hit wonder. You don't tell him that. You don't tell his agent that. You just tell him we love you. We're going to get you locked up as soon as we can. But you kind of make him prove it a little bit, right? He does have another year remaining on his contract. And if you get to the point where he is just an elite pass rusher, he's commanding elite money, well, you might actually get to a point in the season where you got to make a really tough decision. Can you afford to keep Nick Benito or not? Yes, you want to. Of course, the goal is to keep him on this team. You want all the best players you can possibly get playing for the Broncos. But if he's playing at an elite level and he's halfway into the season without a new contract, well, number one, he might just want to taste free agency. So he might tell you to go pound sand at that point if you offer him a new deal. And number two, if you're the Broncos, you might be looking at your salary cap and say, I don't know if we can afford this or not. Look, I'm not predicting this because my prediction would be the Broncos try to get a deal done. But if it gets to the point where you're 7-8 games into the season, Nick Benito is playing at a really high level, you feel like he's going to make too much money than what you can afford, guess what you got to do? Tough decision, man. You probably got to trade him at that point. Because at that point, he's going to have extreme value, probably be worthy of a first rounder, maybe and some change, and you move on. That's what the Patriots have always done. I don't want to do that, nor is it my prediction. I'm just giving you a scenario of how this thing could unfold because I don't think the Broncos can give all three of these guys an extension this offseason. You can't give Courtland Sutton, Zach Allen, and Nick Benito all big-time money in one offseason. It probably is not going to work like that. It's probably going to be too tough to manage your salary cap, and Nick's going to be a motivated young player in the middle of the season that's going to try to play an elite level. So the good news for the Broncos is if he just plays at a mediocre level, you'll get him even cheaper. But that's a risk, right? And if he plays at an elite level, well, now you might lose him. You might lose him either via trade or you might lose him because you come to him in the middle of the year with a contract extension and he says, pound sand. I can taste free agency. It's just 7 games away. It's 8 games away, and I'm looking at the biggest payday of my life. So I don't want to take a new deal right now. So that's the way I see it unfolding. We'll see. Look, the draft is coming up right around the corner. It's April 24th. So the Broncos got to keep rolling here. They got to make some decisions. They did just lose little Jordan Humphrey to the Giants. Not a huge deal, but losing little Jordan Humphrey is a bigger deal than most fans are going to think. I know he's not an elite wide receiver, and there were moments of frustration last year as a playmaker, but you know what he was elite at? The running game. Little Jordan Humphrey was a difference maker in the running game, and coaches fall in love with wide receivers that can block. James says, this is why I say trade him now or on draft day. He's not particularly strong against the run. You have DeAndre Tillman and Jonah Ellis behind him, and both have proven to be capable of doing the job. Well, I wouldn't trade him now. I mean, look, you don't want to get rid of him. You want to keep him. That's the goal, right? So do everything you can to keep him. But if it comes to that point, you do have to be willing to make tough decisions. And the last thing you want to do is let him get to the end of the season and walk in free agency and get nothing but a comp pick back for him. You got to make a tough decision if you can't give him a new deal. Like I said, the draft is on April 24th, and the Broncos have started to bring in their top 30 visits. If you guys don't know what that means, every club in the league is allowed to bring in 30 players before the draft for an official visit. You can only bring in 30, but there is a little loophole in there that if there's local kids, they don't count against your top 30. And local can mean they were just born here. It doesn't mean they had to play college football here. It could just mean they're born here. It could mean they live here. They've got a parent that lives here. There's a lot of loopholes with it. But one player that they just brought in on a visit that is not going to count against their top 30 is Cherry Creek High School product Gunnar Helm, who played tight end for University of Texas. Obviously, the Broncos signed Evan Ingram, and that makes them okay at the tight end position, but they still need to draft somebody. And it's not like a deal breaker if they don't get a tight end drafted this year, but I think it's still a priority. And I don't think it's a first-round priority anymore. But there's some options out there in the second, third, and fourth round at the tight end position that are very attractive. Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, he's another local kid, went to Heritage High School. He had a freak combine performance. He's an athletic freak. Gunnar Helm did not perform well at the combine, but there's a caveat. Gunner sprained his ankle really, really badly on his first 40-yard dash attempt, and he didn't tell anybody. He tried to fight through it, and he ran a really slow 40, which people at the time were mocking. And then afterwards, you saw the photos of his ankle that he was running through, and you're like, damn, why didn't you tap out, dude? You would have been far better off had you just tapped out. But he's a tough dude, and he saw it as an opportunity as a lifetime. Lance Zierlein of NFL.com compares Helm to Cowboys tight end Jake Ferguson. He calls Helm a tight end with good size and soft hands, a combination tight end with good size and soft hands. He developed rapidly in the high-scoring Texas offense. He's a capable route runner who can be used on all three levels, but was allowed free releases and frequent open looks that he won't see as a pro. He goes on. I won't read it all. Bottom line is he's a really good product. He's a really good option for the Broncos. So they're going to be looking at all the tight end options in the first round. I still think it comes down to three positions, and they're all three on offense. It's wide receiver, it's tight end, and it's running back. If you had to put me on the spot today, I would say wide receiver is probably going to be, based off how the board falls, it's probably going to be the best player available. So I think it might be a wide receiver in the first round. We'll see. All right, that's it for tonight. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me here on Mount Polumbus Speaks. What a bummer that was for Colorado State. Again, just absolute tip of the cap to the Rams and to the Rams faithful. I know you guys are heartbroken. I was heartbroken watching that. Shout out to Safeway, my title sponsor. Make sure you download their app. And if you're in the Parker area, and you're looking for a barbershop, check out Ascend Barbershop. I've been going over there for about probably 8 years now, working with my man Alfred Castro. If he's not available, I go to Anthony, who you just saw right there. That is a luxury barbershop experience. I'm telling you, it's the only spot I'll go to. I'm going this week. I'll get my beard trimmed up. I'll be looking sharp. And you guys got to check out Ascend Barbershop in the Parker area. Okay, I'll be back with you guys in a few days. Appreciate